Hello everyone, and welcome back. Today we're going to be doing the next mission guide. This time, we'll be doing egg hunt. There's not a lot of complex techniques to egg hunt, but there's a little bit of detailed information that's very helpful for new players. So without further ado, let's go ahead and take a look at egg hunt over in the Miner's Manual. So, taking a look at egg hunt over in the Miner's Manual, we can see that it's broken up into 5 separate steps. Step 1, once you arrive in the cave, locate the eggs. All of the eggs will be marked on your terrain scanner at all times, so finding them isn't too difficult. Once you're closer to them, you should be able to see them very easily by the purple mass of organic matter. Step 2, getting the egg out of the wall. So you can go up to the egg directly, dig it out with your pickaxe, EPC mining, satchel charges, or some more creative methods that we'll go into later on. But this is where I start to take a little bit of issue of the wording of the Miner's Manual. You can see there that it says this might trigger an enemy attack. It will always trigger an enemy attack, just in a varying level of severity. What this means is you can either get a normal wave of bugs, which will not be announced by mission control, attacking you immediately after you pull the egg, or alternatively you'll get a full swarm, which is announced by mission control, that will attack you once you pull the egg. And one more important note when it comes to pulling eggs and the enemies that are spawned, is there's a set amount of swarms that will happen in an egg hunt. This amount scales with the length of the mission. Egg hunts only come in 3 different lengths, 4, 6, and 8 eggs. These 3 different mission types will determine how many swarms you get, with 4 eggs giving 1 swarm, 6 eggs giving 2 swarms, and 8 eggs giving 3 swarms respectively. With this knowledge in hand, you can know the probability of a swarm attacking on the next egg that you pull, and sometimes you'll even know that a swarm on the next egg pull is guaranteed. Step 3, depositing. Once you get the egg out of the wall, go ahead and drop it into the mule until the required amount is collected. So, like I said before, this will either be 4, 6, or 8 eggs. There are no extra eggs in an egg hunt, so it's all or nothing. And then, similar to every other mission in the game, you call the drop pod, and follow the mule back to the escape pod to leave. Alright, before we drop in, we'll go ahead and go over my build really quickly. Today I'll be playing Gunner, It's a Bug Thing, Resupplier, Born Ready, Heightened Senses, Dash, Big Bertha 33111, Compact Mags 13232, there's a pickaxe, shields, zip lines, cluster grenades, and same armor spec that I run for everything. So without further ado, let's get on into it. The first and most notable factor about egg hunt and getting your boots on the ground is that normally you'll land in a pretty open cave with a lot of ambient spawns in it. So basically, as soon as those pod doors open, you need to be ready for a hell of a fight. With a little bit of bad luck, you're going to have multiple spitballers, breeders, brood nexuses, and every single ambient bug in the cave turning on you all at the same time. In this cave, I was a little more fortunate and was able to pull the ambient bugs at my own leisure, but with 4 players scaling, there can be a very significant amount of bugs in these caves. Remember to use the invincibility that the drop pod provides you for the first 30 seconds of the mission. This will let you clear out a few of the bugs before you actually have to get out and face the music. Currently just getting a general lay of the land before I drop down, but it seems like the rest of the mission is going to be in the bottom half of this cave. As mentioned before, every egg is always shown on your terrain scanner, so it's really hard to get lost in an egg hunt. More so it's just about the combat that ensues whenever you pull an egg. So here we have our first egg. Somewhere in this mass of organic matter lies a dense, fleshy core. If we dig into this solid ball of flesh, we can find the egg. Alternatively, if you're having trouble finding it, you can use the terrain scanner to guide yourself. So whenever you remove an egg from a wall, there are some constants and some variables. The constants being, you will always have a roar go off indicating that an egg has been pulled out of the wall, and then one of 2 things will happen. Mission control will not say anything, and an ambient wave of bugs will spawn in the next few seconds. Or, mission control will announce a full-scale swarm, and about 15 seconds later, the swarm will attack. Knowing which one of these occurs whenever you pull an egg is critical for your actions in the next few minutes. Because if you don't get a swarm out of an egg, and you fight off the bugs that spawn in the next 10 to 20 seconds, it's not unreasonable to pull another egg immediately afterwards, assuming your team isn't getting destroyed. However, if you do pull a swarm egg, meaning that mission control announces the swarm, it might not be such a great idea to pull another egg immediately afterwards, as you may get a second swarm. However, if you don't pull a swarm egg and then you do pull a swarm egg immediately afterwards, a normal wave and a swarm egg together is not usually too much for most teams, but just be aware of the possibility of getting two swarms on top of each other. This goes back to what we talked about before, in that 4 egg missions only have 1 swarm, 6 egg missions have 2, and 8 egg missions have 3 swarms. So if you're doing an 8 egg mission and you pull the first 2 eggs, they're both swarms, well, you can safely say for the rest of the mission that if you pull 2 eggs back to back, there's no possible chance that you're going to pull 2 more swarms in a row, because that would be 4, which is impossible. Using this line of thinking, you can logically determine the risk of pulling an egg at any moment. If you know that you have no swarm eggs remaining and your team is all at half ammo, it's not unreasonable to pull an egg. But if you know that there's 2 swarm eggs left in the pool out of 3 eggs, then you might want to get a resupply first, as it's more than likely going to be a swarm. This is really all of the high technical competence stuff about egg hunt, aside from stealing eggs and exiting mid-swarm, but we'll get more into that later. For the overwhelming majority of an egg hunt, it's just going to be pulling eggs and fighting. This can be done incredibly easily in solo, as you can just sick Bosco on the eggs and then fight off the bugs by yourself, but it becomes a little more complicated in team environments, as other people may want to go after different eggs. But it's important to remember that every egg has to be acquired at some point, so it might just be for the best for you to back off whatever egg you were moving in on and letting your teammate pull one instead. If you want to be extremely careful and play as safely as possible, the ideal way for an egg hunt to roll out in a 4-man team of presumably one of each class would be to have the scout go out, pull eggs, while the rest of the team stays in a safe defensible location, preferably near a resupply. That way the scout can just go collect the eggs and then zoom back to the rest of the team to fight the swarm. On paper, this works out perfectly every time, although some difficulties can occur, cave leeches, unexpected grabbers, things like that. But for the overwhelming majority of time, egg missions are relatively safe, as they're usually one massive cave, so it's rare to be out of line of sight with the rest of your team, meaning that you can provide fire support on incoming swarms or protect someone from a leech. So at this point in time, I've pulled 3 eggs, and none of them have been swarms. So this goes back to what we were talking about before. This is a 6 egg mission, and I have no swarms pulled so far. We have 3 eggs remaining, so we know that logically 2 out of the 3 remaining eggs are swarms. So logically, I'm forming a plan for the rest of the mission based off of this. Either I can attempt to pull 1 more egg, hope it's not a swarm egg, and then pull the last 2 eggs and immediately exit the mission and run through both swarms at the same time. Or alternatively, I can just take a more casual approach, pull 1 egg, and if it is a swarm, fight it out, then pull the remaining 2 eggs and leave. This would be the speed strat, but for the sake of this video, I'm just going to go a little bit slower with it. And for the last bit of technique-based stuff for egg hunts, I'm going to show you how to get an egg out of the ceiling without a scout or Bosco. This can be done by looking at yourself on the terrain scanner from either the left to right, and then the forward and back. If you have the egg lined up directly above you at this point, you're good to go. Now, look immediately down at your feet and place a resupply pod. Whenever the resupply pod comes down, it will knock the egg out of the ceiling and fall down with your resupply. Unfortunately, this won't prevent the swarm from spawning, but hey, you got the egg out of the ceiling. So your team of 3 gunners can breathe a sigh of relief. So we've got one of our swarm eggs pulled now, so that means that we have a 50% chance on our last egg of pulling the swarm. Now, in a team environment, this is the point where you can start to do some quick exit strategies, and we'll go into a little bit of detail on those now. Doing quick exits from egg hunts, as I like to call them, is basically pulling an egg, depositing it, and immediately hitting the button, and then running to the pod to avoid fighting the bugs. Now, you may have to fight the bugs on the way out, but the point being is the mission is already in the process of ending. This will greatly accelerate the time that it takes for you to clear the mission. And depending on how cohesive and how many players you have on your team, you can do this with multiple eggs at the same time, with obviously increased bug pressure. If you were to say pull 4 eggs at the end of a mission, deposit them all, and punch the button to escape, then it's a very real possibility that everyone in your party but the scout is going to die. However, if you don't care about the survival bonus, then having the scout get out and clearing the mission about 5 or 6 minutes faster might not be unreasonable. However, you can usually do this pulling 1 or 2 eggs without the risk of killing anybody immediately. So in solo, the only time I really do quick egg exits is whenever I'm presented with the opportunity to skip the last swarm. And if I had played this better, I would have pulled the egg across the room first and left the 2 next to each other up here for last. In that case, I would have been able to pull both of these eggs in a much shorter window of time, allowing for a safer exit with 2 egg swarms on me instead of just 1. One of the swarms, of course, being just a normal wave, not a full swarm. So we pulled our 5th egg, and it is not a swarm. So at this point, we know for a matter of fact that our last egg will be a swarm, and this will provide us the opportunity to do the quick exit strategy. Another healthy thing to take note of when doing egg hunts is that normally the caves are pretty reasonably shaped in either a very round circuitous area or just a long tunnel, which is more likely to spawn on 8 egg missions. Using this line of thinking, you can pretty easily understand where the drop pod is going to land. So, you can go ahead and start heading over there the second you press the button, and if you really want to speed things up, start dragging Molly along with you. So as the last swarm is spawning, the drop pod is landing, and we're almost there already, giving us the opportunity to set up a more defensible position and protect ourselves while we wait on the mule, which is already halfway here thanks to our early call. And while we're waiting on the mule, I'll go ahead and wrap up some of the loose ends. Egg hunts are pretty simple when it comes to extra content like core locks, machine events, data deposits, prospectors. Basically just don't do it at the same time that you're pulling eggs and you'll be a-okay. There are ambient swarms on Egg Hunt, so try not to stack those events on top of those, but overall, not too big of a risk. So just feel free to engage machine events and core locks as long as your team's on the same page and someone's not about to yank an egg out of the wall. But that's all I have for you today. If you'd like to see some more Deep Rock Galactic content, make sure to subscribe. You can catch me live over on Twitch. If you'd like to talk to me or any of my community members, you can find us over on Discord. And as always, thank you for watching, and have a nice day.